Time is 6 o'clock. This meeting of the Fernbluff Municipal Utility District Board of Directors is now in session and is come to order. We'll note roll call of directors. All directors are present except for Director Smith, who is absent. All right. Director Stemko, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Stemko. Much appreciated. All right. I know we have two speakers for systems communication, but I want to go ahead and bump up our gardener first since he's here. Jack, would you like to?
Absolutely. I really don't need too much of your time today. It's getting to be that time of year. Maintenance is ongoing right now. We are cutting down all the wildflowers. They have exhausted their run and have gone to seed, and so we're mowing all those areas down. We're getting caught up in the greenbelt slowly but surely, but I think that by the time we get back to a greenbelt, we've had enough rain recently that they've gotten kind of tall. So, but I feel like we are getting caught up on those. We have a meeting set up with a certified arborist to come and check on some of the trees. There's 2 dead ash trees in Fernbluff Park that we're going to be removing. I'm going to get Janie a proposal to replace one of them with some sort of an ornamental. It's one of the memorial trees, but the nursery stock right now is just kind of depleted, so we're waiting to try to find something that will be appropriate, for that. So as soon as we can find something like that, Jamie, I'll let you know. It's not going to be much, but one of them is in kind of a spot where I feel like it's appropriate to replace that. And then there's a large oak in the Karsk at Friendly Oaks that lost a couple of big limbs. We're going to check that out and make sure that whether that needs to just come down or whether we can save it. So. And as well as a couple other trees here and there. So we're going to go through the district with a certified arborist and kind of give us a feel for what we're going to be able to save, what we're not. I'm not willing to give up on any live oak until next year. I've seen some of them. There was one out here at the community center that looked for all intents and purposes like it was dead, and then just all of a sudden a few weeks ago it put on new leaves and started to flush out. So I'm not willing to give up on the live oaks until we see them next spring, I think. But anyway, touching base with an arborist, trying to get a feel for that. So I'll report back next meeting what I find during that meeting. Irrigation checks were performed. Some minor issues came up. Those have all been fixed. Nothing major. And then we will be complete with the first round of mulch tomorrow. So we just have a little bit of mulch left to do, and we'll be done with that and moving forward. But all in all, this district looks great, grass looks great, plants are doing really well, so it looks really good out there. So if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So do you have an arborist lined up already? Do you have a date when you're going to?
I do. I don't have the date in front of me. I believe it's next week. I believe it's next week sometime.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
You said one of the trees that was in trouble was in the karst area. Is that
It is
behind the wrought iron fence?
It's behind the wrought iron fence there. It's a large tree. It lost a couple of really large limbs. Based on the size of that tree, knowing that it's right there rooted into the rock of that karst, it may have just reached the end of its life. But I want a certified arborist to look at it and let us know that for sure. If there's something that we can do to save it, we're certainly going to try that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It took out, it was a huge limb. It took out one section of the protective fence there, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah, the size of the limb was the size of a large tree. That's how big this tree is. So
Yeah.
we're going to do everything we can to save it.
I just want to tell you, the chemicals that you guys are using are working so well. Not only the feeding, but the weed prevention and everything. It's just, I don't remember the last time our sod looked this good. It's just
Appreciate
fabulous.
that. Yeah, it's taken a little bit of time. Once you start a chemical program, the fertilization program like that, it takes a little while to really see the results. But we're really happy with what we're seeing as well. So thank you for that.
Any other questions for our gardener? No? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, good evening.
Thanks for your report and thanks for continuing to take care of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's move back to citizens communications. I know we had some folks come in late. If you would like to speak, please get, from our operator, a yellow card to fill out. First, we'll have Mr. Yorm come on, speak.
Before me, you want to go?
Before you start, you can approach the podium, but before you start to speak, I just want to note, so I'll be keeping track of it. The comments are limited, citizen communication is limited to 2 minutes per person. So what I'm going to do is I'll hold up a yellow slip of paper when there's 30 seconds left. And then at the expiration of 2 minutes, I'll hold it up again and give you a chance to wrap it up. And then
All right. Yeah, I
and
appreciate
we'll
it.
go from there.
All right.
And this is the only time for citizens to communicate with the board. It's not a back and forth. This is a chance for you to talk to us, not necessarily a chance for us to respond. You may be speaking about things that are not on the agenda that we are not allowed to talk about. So if you're going to ask a question at the podium, don't expect to get an answer because this is not an interactive session of the meeting, but it is a chance for you to be heard by all of the board. Okay? With that, we'll go with Mr. Guan.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me about my unfortunately dying father. Don't want to read a couple of things. Dear residents and board members, I would like to say a few words before this meeting where, yet again, our MUD board members are going to discuss an order, mind you, one that none of us had a chance to review, to introduce fines for deed restriction violations. I truly wanted to believe that we're past this obsession, that you as our representative heard our clear and loud voices, that our beautiful neighborhood, our community does not need or want these things. Alas, here we are again, introducing tension, tribalism, vindictiveness, and lack of transparency. And for what? To solve what problem? What are we trying to solve here? To criminalize law-abiding, hard-working residents? At this point, I don't believe anymore that common sense or words, as polished as they may be, will deter this single-minded purpose you have to win this battle at whatever cost it takes. Maybe you'll prove me wrong tonight. I hope so. Maybe there's hope and I'm being completely wrong here. With that said, I want to follow with a very clear legal statement. We have our attorney here. A MUD is not an HOA. I know that some of you manage HOAs, but this is not an HOA. The legislator clearly stated in section 54.237 of the Water Code Part B, a district may take all actions necessary to enforce a restriction, including the initiation, defense, or intervention in litigation or administrative proceeding to enjoin or abate the violation of a restriction when, in the reasonable judgment of the board of directors of the district, enforcement of the restriction is necessary to sustain taxable property values in the district. It seems to me that unfortunately, we all will have to spend valuable taxpayers' money, time, and emotions to learn the meaning of the words reasonable, necessary, and taxable property values. Maybe I'm wrong, and a judge or whoever it may be will agree that fitted car covers, swing sets, and toys are reasonable and necessary deed restrictions a MUD should use taxpayers' money to enforce in order to sustain our home taxable values. Maybe they won't, but I think it's time for us to find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gavon. The only other sheet I have tonight is from Mr. Jimmy Miller.
I'd like to speak too.
Can you fill out a form for me and get it up for me, please? And we got one other one, Jimmy? One other one behind you?
Sorry.
Okay, I've spoken to quite a number of residents in our district who by far agree with and want the fine schedule for the deed restriction violations in the Fernbluff subdivision that's on the agenda this evening. I found that many of our Stone Canyon and Oak Brook neighbors did not realize that they're funding both their own deed restriction or enforcement through HOA dues and fines, but also deed enforcement for the Fernbluff neighborhood, since it has no HOA, through their tax dollars as mandated by Texas Water Code. They now understand that placing a fine schedule for deed restriction violations for the Fernbluff neighborhood will put the onus of deed enforcement on the violator's shoulders where it belongs and not on the backs of every taxpayer in the district. And for this, I found they are very grateful. There's been a lot of chatter on social media about negativity towards these fines and that the Mud Board and GM are derelict in their duty for instituting this order. This has also bled over to the ACC committee and their responsibility to create and maintain the unsightly list of items that are included and always have been included in the deed restrictions. Those I spoke with in the district do understand that it is the very violators of the restrictions primarily who are making the noise and the accusations on social media. There was even a scare tactic used where people were told that the MUD could fine them $10,000 for leaving their trash can out if this order passed. I can tell you that a $50 fine after receiving 3 friendly notices to cure the violation is a long way from $10,000. I hope that those who are new to our area and are questioning the MUD because of these posts on websites like Nextdoor or Facebook will come to understand that we want what the MUD is doing. We want this deed enforcement fine schedule. We want a reduced tax rate instead of a standard homestead exemption, as it is fair for all homeowners in our neighborhoods and actually gives people a lower tax burden. So bottom line, keep doing what you're doing. Follow the legal and professional advice you are given from your providers, and thank you for your service to our community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. I've got one other one. Is there one out there still? Ma'am, did you want to speak? Can you turn your form in if you're...
Yeah, did you want to leave?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can see.
Okay, Ms. Martinez, you can go. And then when you're ready to speak, just bring your yellow form up to me, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez, please.
Good afternoon, good evening. So, I wanted to make a request before I get into my 2 minutes. I've been asked by some of our residents to request that y'all speak into the mics so that, everyone can hear, anybody that's watching can hear. But I actually wanted to talk tonight about, my case, because I noticed that I'm again on the agenda regarding the car cover. And I just had a couple things that I wanted to talk to y'all about. In September, you guys recommended that my case be transferred to legal. I sat here at the meeting and I listened to y'all discuss the car cover. You guys left off with car covers were deemed unsightly by the ACC in, I believe 2007. But I'll have to go back and check the minutes to see when it was deemed unsightly, because if push comes to shove, we have to show record that car covers were deemed unsightly by the ACC. Well, I went home and I did my research. I looked through the minutes. I reached out to my neighbors that have been here for 20 years. And I can't find any proof that there was any talk about car covers being deemed unsightly by the ACC. I do, however, have a unsightly list that was provided by the Fernbluff Neighborhood Association. It's dated October, November, December 2009, and here has a list of unsightly lists. Nowhere on there is there a notice of car covers being deemed unsightly. So I thought that this was over in September, but in November I received a letter from the district's attorney, I think it was a couple days after y'all passed the 10,000 order fine, threatening me with a fine up to $10,000 for a car cover. So I've been patient, I've gone through the process, I've, in good faith, tried to work with you all regarding this car cover. I've asked y'all for proof that I'm in violation of the deed restrictions. Y'all haven't provided me that. Y'all haven't responded to my emails. The only thing that I've received from y'all is, we're in receipt of your email, but we cannot discuss it. So what did y'all do? Y'all set up and appointed an ACC, which is questionable. We're still trying to figure out what happened with that amendment in 2012 that granted y'all the authority to appoint members to our ACC.
I need you to wrap up. You're over your 2 minutes.
Okay, I will wrap it up. So, I just want to say that there's been a lot of concern about my car cover bringing down property value in the area. I just want to say that, where was that concern when y'all let that house, the last homeowners, let that house fall apart? I have invested at least $40,000 into my home. My home is valued at $378,000, $100,000 more than when I purchased it 3 years ago.
All right,
So
thank you.
this will be the last time I'm
Thank you, Ms.
discussing this. I don't want y'all sending anybody to my house to take pictures. I have a no soliciting sign on my
All right.
door.
You've had your 2 minutes. Thank you.
So I will treat anybody that walks onto my property as trespassers. I just want that to be known. Thank you.
All right. Do we have another speaker for citizens communication? May I have your yellow slip, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I am been a resident of the community for just a year and a half. I wanted to express my concern about the recent changes regarding the fines that seem to be happening. Not necessarily for or against, but there do seem to be a lot of confusion about what is legally able to be done or not. There does seem to be some, many residents saying they've sent emails asking about things they haven't received communication back. And so I think I would just like to request that maybe a vote on that measure could be delayed, and that maybe we could hold some type of neighborhood meeting or something to go over some of these issues. Would be probably good for the community just to get a full understanding of what you are legally able to do, maybe to come to an understanding about what should be on this unsightly list, and just have a little more neighborhood togetherness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else for citizens communications? All right. Thanks to each of you for speaking this evening. General Manager, do we have any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I do not.
All right.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Director Tiber,
Second.
second by Director Barnes. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Consent agenda is passed. All right. I'm gonna do things a little out of order. Let's do number 9, road and bridge, before we get to new business. Do we have anything for the roads?
The Wyoming Springs extension, we just learned is around 30% complete, probably 60% in a month or a little more. Harry Man, Brushy Creek, continuing on. I think they will be finishing up the Brushy Creek section down in front of Olson Meadows by mid-August. The Harry Man section they've closed, as y'all seen, during the weekdays, and it's going to take some time, so it's really the only road update I have.
Okay. Very good. All right, let's get to new business. Deed restriction enforcement order. Okay, so this is coming from the deed restriction committee?
This is what we discussed in last month's meeting,
Okay,
with the, a couple of changes that we discussed at the meeting. I believe that it incorporates everything that was discussed in our open meeting. And as you know, we're not allowed to discuss it as a group outside of this meeting, so this is,
okay.
I believe, represents what
So
we
the-
discussed last month.
So the order in front of us is the finished product of what the deed restriction committee is
This is,
recommending?
Right, this is, the revision of what we first presented to the board. And, we revised it to include that there is an appeal process. We extended the amount of time before a fine is actually issued. And, it is very clear that throughout the entire process, every resident has the ability to contact the management company if there is extenuating circumstances related to a violation.
All right, so we have, it looks like it's two separate orders?
Yeah, so, what Zach had decided to do is you'd originally had everything combined into one order, and he just separated those out into two separate orders. So this would be covering the deed restrictions, and the other one was, violations of district rules.
Okay.
Which is basically, everything is the same in that.
And does that adopt the state, adopts the laws of the state of Texas? Okay.
Yes, exactly,
Statutory laws of the state of Texas are hereby declared to be rules of the district. Okay.
exactly.
Very good. And then we also have in front of us a declaration of restrictions. This is also from the ACC committee of
This is, this is from the ACC committee that was voted on. I think we've already presented this to the board, but.
I don't remember seeing some of these things in here.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I was handed this, or something similar to this at the last meeting, and he'll just ask me to put it, it's down on,
Okay.
further on the agenda.
We just cleaned it up and, because it was very descriptive, just kind of cleaned up some of the language for you.
My understanding was it wasn't something that the board would make a decision on, one or the other.
This is, okay. Well, we'll hold on to that part then for the deed restriction part of the meeting. So right now we're doing the deed restriction enforcement order and any orders. We got two orders in front of us proposed adopting district rules. I'll just go ahead and I'll make the motion now that we adopt the two proposed orders in front of us. One setting a procedure for notices of violation, and the other adopting the laws of the state of Texas to be declared rules of the district. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Director Stemko, motion by Director Sabatino. So let's have some further discussion. So the highlights of the order on the for the notices of violation. So the first notice of violation has a request, ends with a request to remedy the violation within 2 weeks. If it's not remedied within 2 weeks, there's a second notice of violation with the allowance to remedy the violation of 2 weeks. And then, so that's a month gone by. So after that, the third notice of violation can go out with a potential $50 fine to the violator. It says notification that the violation is not remedied within 2 weeks, the violator will be subject to a $50 fine. So, doesn't say will be issued, but will be subject to, so.
Correct.
Just, okay. Fourth notice of violation, violation is not remedied within 7 days, the violator will be subject to an additional $50 fine. And again, that's subject to, not shall be issued. Fifth notice of violation, an additional $50 fine. Violation will be forwarded to the district's attorney for appropriate legal action against the violator. So the fifth violation then is the last notice of violation before it's referred to legal?
It could be. Again, we've tried to keep this so that anyone that is in violation of the deed covenants has the ability to talk. If they have extenuating circumstances, we're not gonna ignore someone that may need some
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've done that in the past. We've had people that have had to replace central air and had window units that we've helped. So this is for people that willfully ignore deed violations and have cost us a lot of money.
Okay. Any other points you want to bring up about it? I mean, that covers the gist of it. I know that personally, I would hope that so the whole point of issuing the notices of violation, since we are responsible, the MUD is responsible for enforcing the deed restrictions in the Fernbluff neighborhood. That is the MUD's responsibility at this point. By this series of 5 notices, that would hopefully communicate to someone that, hey, we've noticed a violation, it needs to be remedied, and, you know, we're serious about it. You know, there's the only provision after a 5th notice is, you know, maybe we could issue more notices, but, you know, eventually get to the point, and we've had to do this before, you get to the point where you have to file some kind of lawsuit to get an injunction, you know, for someone to stop breaking the rules of the district, stop breaking the deed covenants, to adhere to the deed covenants, that the deed covenants that that someone agreed to abide by when they purchased the property and moved into the district. So, I think this is reasonable. I don't think it's oppressive or vindictive at all. This seems to me to be a reasonable way to address someone who will not correct a deed restriction. So,
I will add that this is much, it's a lower enforcement than either Oak Brook or Stone Canyon, who are also communities in this district. I think we reviewed 20 different fine policies at least in the Central Texas area and homes near us. This is one of the least restrictive. Some communities actually fine by the day. So all we're hoping for is compliance.
right.
That's all.
And that's all this is about. This isn't about any kind of retribution,
No.
vindictiveness, or anything else.
No.
This is about, you know, having folks abide by what they agreed to when they purchase property here, so that all homeowners know what to expect when they purchase property here, as far as folks maintaining their properties. So,
Now, my only concern, well, I've got other concerns, but one of my big concerns is the enforceability of it. If there is, I mean, with like, let's say, a homeowners association, with an HOA, then we've got the option, it gets tacked on to their dues, or I don't know how that happens as far as if they get fined for a certain procedure, they get fined for something, but what happens? I don't think that it's enforceable as far as the fine schedule. We're asking citizens in their own good nature to say, oh, you're not doing this for 3 times or 4 times or whatever. You're subject to a fine, we're gonna ask you to pay this $50 fine. I don't think that it really is, I mean, I like the idea, I think it's a good idea, because number one, it takes the pressure off of all the taxpayers in the district, and it sets that problem, it sets that responsibility on top of the person who is actually violating the deed restriction. But I'm not sure that we have the ability to enforce it, because we can't tack it onto their water bill. There's not really any way that we can say, oh, look, you owe us $100 now, pay up. So my concern is, what happens if they don't pay?
if I could address those for a second, the enforceability part, there are plenty of HOAs, and I assume there's MUDs, I haven't looked into it, but there's plenty of HOAs that have fine structures for deed violations. And some HOAs will even put a lien on someone's house, which I think is a little over the top for something like that. So I don't think there's an issue with enforceability at all. And as far as, you mentioned the water bill, I just want to make this clear, you know, and I think our general manager's on the same page, so if she's not, we're gonna get on the same page right now. There is no linkage whatsoever between deed restriction fines and having water shut off for not paying a
Right.
water bill. If your water will never be shut off for a deed violation, ever.
It's not in this order.
It is
It's
not in the order, we are
mentioned.
not doing that, to make that 100% clear. If your water's getting shut off, it's because you didn't pay the water bill. That's the only reason. And your water will get turned on when you, get turned back on when you are current in your payments. And it won't matter if you have fines or not, your water's gonna get turned back on when you're current with your payments. So these are two separate things, I wanna make that absolutely clear to everybody.
I can speak to at least one HOA. Our HOA, Stone Canyon, has no more authority than the MUD to enforce. We've had residents accrue fines up to thousands of dollars and not pay them. The only enforceability comes when they try to sell their home, and then they're not able to until they clear their fine policy. So, I mean, I don't know where it would go with the MUD, but the HOA has no super enforceability. We don't have police. We can refer it to legal and they can write letters. That's about it. The same thing MUD has.
If I,
Absolutely,
Can I make
please,
a comment
let's hear
that-
from legal.
if something is referred to legal and the district does request that we file a lawsuit, in the lawsuit, we would ask for attorney's fees, those kinds of things, like anything that the district is suing the violator over, we would request those fees. And so this is through the means of a lawsuit, so that is enforceable. We can go ahead and recover that judgment, but, as far as, I can't speak to anything else, but if it does get referred to legal and you ask that we file a lawsuit on this matter, it will go through the court system.
Again, our hope is it would never reach that. That's the hope.
Right, the whole point of what we're doing is to bring someone into compliance. That's the whole point of it. And that's for the benefit of all the other residents, so that everyone evenly and fairly has the same deed restrictions enforced on them as enforced on everyone else in the district. So, that's the point.
Now, my other question, and this is for the general manager, how many times, so according to the policy, according to this order, so by the time they hit the third notice of violation, they haven't done it, if they haven't cleaned up whatever it is, if they haven't corrected the violation. So that would, in my understanding, according to our current system, so that would be the equivalent of probably a stage 2 or stage 3 violation, according to do we know how many properties we have right now that are at that level?
Yes, I can get you that information,
But not,
but not off the top of my head.
okay,
I would say at this point today, we probably have about 5 properties that they've reached that. Can we sort of roll this discussion into the agenda topic for deed enforcement as well?
okay.
Sure,
Because I kinda
okay.
I need to answer this a little more
That's fine, let's
fully.
consider this also as part of the deed restriction part of the agenda, that's fine.
The board is going to consider, deed enforcement, and our new contract obviously has been signed with Sage Management. So y'all are gonna consider deed enforcement and how we move forward, starting with the new company, August 1. There has been discussion with the deed enforcement committee that starting off with a completely clear slate for Sage Management as well as the district. So any property currently in a non-compliant state, regardless of which stage, they're gonna go back to 0.
Right.
And we're going to start fresh with the new company, and that's why these penalties and expectations are laid out as clearly as they are. Now, y'all are gonna do what you're gonna do when you vote on this, and the deed enforcement committee will make its recommendation, but that's what we had talked about doing. So that it's clear to everyone in the district. We can send out communications, letters, new company, starting fresh, you know, et cetera, we do want to communicate exactly what y'all are doing. So that, we probably have 4 to 5
Right.
properties there right now.
See.
But they would then start fresh,
Right.
if you will, August 1.
So in effect, August 1st or July 31st, no one will have a deed violation,
That's correct,
and everyone will start fresh. Oh, okay.
that's correct.
And everyone will start
And
clean.
then,
If there's any violators,
That's right.
they'll start clean August 1st,
that's right.
or whenever Sage Management makes its first pass through.
It's my opinion, it's a great idea to do it that way. Also, we've just had all this crazy weather, we've had all these roofs, you know. Some people submitted, you know, ACC, all this, we're just gonna start over. It's been a bit complicated this year as we've kind of worked through all this, and at least this way with a new company, with a new procedure and a new methodology that the board is enacting, we can do that as of August 1.
Okay. I think that would be good. Since we're gonna bring in the deed restriction, we're talking about that as well, with this. We do have, this is, I guess it's from the ACC Declaration of Restrictions on Unsightly Articles and an expanded definition of the unsightly list. So now is this something we're just going to discuss today, or were you hoping to get something adopted? There's just-
Well, we've already, the ACC committee has the ability to make that decision.
Okay, so this is what you've decided.
This,
okay.
right, and I honestly can't remember when we had this meeting, it might have been April or May,
May 26th,
okay.
yeah, I think it's on.
And so we did vote on it then, but this is, I guess this is like a more formal.
Well, y'all just asked for it to be brought back to
Okay.
the board tonight, with, kind of cleaned up, because before it was more of just a conversation.
Right.
So, that's what you have, a recommendation, from the ACC that this is the unsightly list that will be operating with.
Okay, it looks to me, it's a little more liberal than what we already had. I see for car covers, it says vehicles may not be stored with car covers of any type, but it also says temporary use during inclement weather is appropriate, which I think is a change. I don't think we had that before.
That's exactly right. We got a hailstorm coming, I mean, I'm throwing my bedspread on my car, I can just tell you that right now.
I've moved my car off
Agreed.
my property somewhere to,
Yeah,
you know, when we've got cars in the driveway. Okay. And I noticed for some of these, it especially notices if, where's the one I was looking at? Storage pods. Those are permitted with the prior approval of the ACC during, for example, during a home remodel or move in, move out. So, and I think that would go with a lot of this stuff if, you know, and if not, I mean, I would hope that, and I think you do, the general manager does, and I hope the general manager will continue to, you know, when there's reason for variances where someone needs a little bit of time to come into compliance because of an emergency issue or a safety issue that would be granted, so.
we've always done that, we'll continue that. I think the goal here is to get, some active two-way communication. That, you know, if you're gonna have your home remodeled, just let us know so that, you know, we're not sending you violation letters. We know it's going to happen, we can set up, you know, an approximate time period and that type of thing. So to get two-way communication.
Okay.
I also want to confirm that there's 2 drives a month, every 2 weeks.
Right, by-
So
by
occasionally,
management company.
yeah. So I've heard some residents say, oh, I got one today, I got one the next day. That doesn't happen. Once every 2 weeks, and not only is Janie very accessible, Jimmy's very accessible, Mr. Sagnas. The first notice is a door hanger. So it's not even like you're getting a letter, it's just to draw someone's attention to the fact they may not know they're in violation of the deed covenant, of the covenants.
So it won't be through US mail, it'll be a door hanger?
The first one is a door hanger. If someone has a problem with a door hanger, they can certainly request that we not use a door hanger and we give them notice by mail. We're trying to be as accessible as possible to the residents.
All right, any other comments? All right, let's go ahead and vote on the motion to adopt the two orders, one on the notice procedure and the other on adopting state laws as rules of the district. All in favor? We have 3-4, any against? One against? Motion carries. The orders are adopted. I'd like to make a second motion just to ratify what our general manager said. I know on the order it says to take effect immediately, and on the date of adoption, I would like to abate enforcement of the order on the notice procedure only until August 1st, until the new management company takes over. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Director Barnes, motion by Director Sabatino. Any further discussion?
Clarify that for me. Are you taking the two?
No, the rules of the state, the laws of the state of Texas rules, that takes effect, as the order says.
Immediately.
Immediately.
The deed enforcement, okay.
Deed enforcement,
I
we're
wanted to make
asking
sure.
for, it's in effect, but we're asking for it to be abated. I mean, I'm asking for it to be abated until the new management company comes on
I got you.
August 1st. If that's clear to everybody. I don't have any other further discussion on that. All in favor? All right, that one carries 4-0. And so on the declaration of restrictions, did the deed restriction committee or the ACC committee want the board as a whole to ratify this, or is this basically a notification of how the ACC covers some unsightly items, not a comprehensive list, but expounds on some of the unsightly things that have come up in the past?
I believe that the ACC committee wanted to notify the board, and I think they would appreciate the board ratifying it,
Okay.
so that it's very clear that it is a list that is supported by the board as well as the committee.
Okay, so then I will make the motion that the full board adopt the declaration of restrictions, Fernbluff sections 1 and 2, regarding unsightly articles and the expanded definitions of the unsightly list as approved by the ACC on May 26, 2021, including but not limited to the items in this list. This is meant to be a guide for residents as to things that the ACC considers unsightly, and that I'm asking the board to ratify this today. Do I have a second? Second from Director?
Second.
Second from Director Timer. Motion by Sabatino. Again, this looks like a reasonable list. And just to talk about all this in general, we now have a notice procedure. We have not had any procedure. We've abated everything, all enforcement actions since, I believe, last October, if I remember right. So there's been no enforcement going on since then. So, it's time to get back and make sure that we're all living up to our responsibilities and living up to what our neighbors expect of us. And I think the orders we passed tonight and the expanded definition on the unsightly list, I think that helps all of us understand what we expect from one another, and that will help everyone come into compliance in a way that is not vindictive or oppressive. And I expect when the new management company comes in that they will do things fairly and the same, same as for one person, the same as for the other. That's what I expect when this goes into effect on the 1st. Any other comments on the unsightly list, which is a pending motion? All right, all in favor of ratifying the unsightly articles? All right, motion carries 4-0. All right, thank you, everybody. I know this is hard stuff, but we have to live up to our responsibility, and as my directors, just as neighbors, have to live up to responsibilities as neighbors with each other. Okay, also on the agenda for new business, status of abated deed restriction violations at 2 properties. I think we've pretty much decided we're going to hold off on any enforcement and start clean on August 1st. Is there anything else to discuss on that?
No, did the previous order deal specifically with those two, or the previous motion with those two addresses? I think the board needs to take action because those two were placed in
I
abatement.
think because we made the motion back in
Oh, I see what
October,
you're saying.
November,
Yeah.
we need to make a motion to take
Specifically.
it out of abatement.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we can probably make another motion, correct me if I'm wrong, to clear those violations until,
Pending till August 1st.
or
Start them over.
start fresh August 1st.
Okay.
You could probably combine that into one motion.
Sure,
So-
sure.
All right, I make that motion.
Okay.
I make the motion that we take the 2 properties listed, 8405 Priest River Drive and 17512 Climate Falls Drive, out of abatement. Secondly, clear those violations and until.
Till the new order comes into effect.
Till the new order comes into effect.
Okay. Do I have a second? Motion from Director Barnes.
I'll second.
Second by Director Stemco. Any further discussion?
I just wanna say, we're talking August 1st. I really don't know what day Jimmy's gonna start working, so.
No, I know, well, the contract, I think the contract
Honestly.
starts that day, so he
Yeah.
he may not do anything until 2 weeks
Yeah.
after that,
Yeah.
3 weeks after that.
Yeah.
It's on a calendar month, so, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so that's the earliest
Right.
any action can be taken, basically.
And it just so happens that August 1st is a Sunday, so
So it's probably not gonna happen.
it could happen the first week of August, yeah.
That's fine. Okay, any other discussion? I think it's a good motion, just to clarify that, everyone starts fresh. All in favor? All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Director Barnes. Other new business, 8D, draft budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th. I'll let the general manager do that, but before the general manager does that, I just want to tell everyone that this budget was prepared with the assumption that we would adopt in September a budget with a lower, or we would adopt a new tax rate down to 25 cents out of $100 valuation, which is a lowering of, how much? 2.5?
2.29.
2.29.
Going from .279 to
2.5.
25 cents.
Okay. Very good. Okay, now having said that the budget was prepared with our tax reduction in mind, tax rate reduction in mind, please proceed.
No problem. In front of you, you have the draft budget. Budget committee have given me some parameters. We're going to need to meet to kind of firm up some of this. But that is our working draft budget that you have in front of you. It is very comfortable at the 25 cents, which was the discussion of if we don't do a homestead exemption, what are the ramifications of that? How can we offset the increases, if you will, for the increase in appraised value for the district? So this is a pretty dramatic tax rate reduction. There are some variables that we're going to be dealing with next year. As you know, we've had a park plan for 2 years to try and start redoing our parks. The 2020 budget, all of a sudden the pandemic hits. Nothing can occur. Last year, even though we began to come out of the pandemic, everything was so back ordered that even if we had tried to order park equipment, we wouldn't have gotten delivery. Most of the companies have been giving priority status to new schools or equipment that has failed. None of ours has failed. It is just strictly at the end of its life. So one of the things in the new budget is a fairly aggressive park equipment replacement. I'm looking right now for a park designer, if you will. I think we know what works in our parks, but there's some fabulous new equipment out that would be great to incorporate in some of our parks. I will say, and I'm just gonna put this out here in front of everyone, I've also put in the budget for the possibility of having to hire 2 new people. We work with a very small staff in Fernbluff. They are incredibly good at what they do. We multitask. But recent events have caused a time drain. I'll just put it that way, a time drain. You're going to be seeing increases in our legal costs because of a lot of this, but I know I, as the general manager, kind of work at double time most of the time. I am beyond double time right now. And so is my accounting office. Because of all the requests that are coming in, I would like to put on the record right now that as the general manager of this district for a long period of time, I've always been proud of the fact that we brought things in-house, that we've saved the district money, that our response time is incredible. When a leak occurs in this district, we are able to repair that leak as quick as all the other utilities can mark their lines. We've done amazing things in this district, and I am incredibly proud of my staff. I am incredibly proud of this board of directors. You've been committed to this district, you put the time in, and you care about it. You care about our neighborhoods. We need 2 new people for 2 reasons. One, the state and the federal government, they're requesting a lot more, I'm just gonna say paperwork, year over year. Our operations manager, again, works double time, trying to keep up with it all, and there's just not enough hours in the day, okay? A backflow prevention program. We need to get it off the ground. He doesn't have the bandwidth to do it. I don't have the bandwidth to do it, especially on top of all of this other stuff that has been put on me. I never hesitate to talk to our residents. I've actually reached out to several of you, said if you've got questions, come talk to me, let's have a conversation. Actually called. That's what I do, and I'm always happy to do that, because MUDs are weird. Our operations, they're weird. We're not a city, we're not a county. So I've always been cognizant of the fact that many times it's because of misinformation. So I'll talk, I'll explain, I'll, show whatever documents they're allowed to be shown. But no one's taken me up on it. Other than, I'm starting to hear from more and more people in the district that kind of don't understand what the problem is. They're like, wow, our MUD's doing great. Our tax rate keeps going down. Our parks look phenomenal. Janie, please tell me what's going on. And I'm always happy to have those conversations because they feel pretty great, because they do brag on our staff. The one thing that you will always see me get very upset about is when unfair accusations are made towards our staff. We have probably some of the most dedicated, hardworking, honest people that I have ever worked with in my entire career. And so I really appreciate it when we have people literally stop them out on the street. They see a truck driving by, we're over there in their meter vault or something. We have an awful lot of residents that say, thank y'all. Thank you very much for what you do. We appreciate you guys. We see y'all all the time. So I just wanted to put that out there, and before we talk about this budget, because I do need more people. I just do need more people. I think we're working on what that person or 2 people will be, but it is what it is. It just is what it is. Other than that, operations are going to continue just as they are right now. Costs are going up. Electricity costs are going up. Repair supplies are going up. I do want to make you aware, and I think I kind of touched on this at the last meeting. We have a meeting with the city of Round Rock on August the 9th. They have finished their rate study. And so they are setting up meetings with each one of their wholesale customers to come in so they can explain their rate study to each of us. So this budget will change between now and probably September, depending on what the city of Round Rock does as far as their wholesale rates. As you all know and you've been committed to, we don't make a lot of money off of our water rates nor our sewer rates. We have an extraordinarily good sewer contract. But the water rates are dependent on the city of Round Rock's costs as well. They've played very, very fair with us over the last, 10 years. I expect that there will be increases. I have no idea how much they will be. Any questions on the budget? It's in big type, so it's kind of big. The calculator sheet is here on the front. So y'all let me know. We need to set up the meeting with George and Kevin to get into some of the nitty gritty on this too.
And the
We've talked
proposed
about it.
budget, it does take into account the expected increases for things like gas and,
Yes, I've gone
Other
through, looked at
costs.
all of our P&Ls, looked at all the general ledger accounts, where we can possibly lower a little bit. There's not many of those, but there's some. And trying to take in our 3% increases that we will have for our landscaping company, for our solid waste hauler. That is all reflected in this budget.
Okay, so you've planned for a certain percentage increase and something. Okay.
Now, if CPI comes back very high,
Right, you
and I'm
can-
telling you,
yeah.
CPI has been high, we are subject to more of an increase with our trash hauler.
But those are all things we can adjust for
Yes.
if something like that happens.
Yes.
This isn't set in stone, it's a target.
Yes,
We always adjust things as we go. You know, some of the things we planned to get, like you said, that we planned stuff for the park for 2 years and never got to them.
We
We
didn't
didn't want
get
to spend the money for, one reason or another. So, yeah.
this is our roadmap.
This is our
That's pretty
roadmap,
much what this
And
is.
then, Kevin and I on the budget committee and Janie will flush out anything else where, there's stuff we see it needs to be on here that's not, or stuff we think we can defer another year. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. And we can make adjustments as
And
the
the
year goes
assumptions
on.
and- yeah.
Sure, absolutely. That's what we do every year.
Okay.
The city of Round Rock is aware that we have a deadline to vote, right?
Yes, I mean, they know, and that's, as I said, it's not hard and fast until September when we set our tax rate, but we do need to do the budget in August.
In August, right, so this is
You just have
everyone's,
to adopt it by the end of September.
That's exactly right. So we have some time. All of the water rates, sewer rates, everything's in this budget, little bits here and there. Always remember too, and you see it obviously in your P&L every month. We're not making as much water revenue this year as we expected or budgeted for. We've had a lot of rain, we're not selling as much water. But the cost to purchase that wholesale water is also down. So there's that, yin and yang, if you will.
okay. All right, so that's the draft budget. We'll adopt a budget in August or September, probably August. Next item, new business, 8E, engage auditor to perform auditor services. Fiscal year ending September 30, 2021. Do we have, Mr. Allman, do we need to send him a contract or engage him? Or- Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
You need to take a vote that it's time to engage our auditor for next fiscal year, yeah?
Yeah, usually y'all get an engagement letter from him.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, I'm just getting ahead of myself. I will contact Don Allman, get an engagement letter from him.
So we're not ready to go on this one, right?
No,
Okay, fair enough.
no, but I think
Yeah,
that's
you-
fine. The question is, do we want to, engage or reach out to
Solicit
Don Allman?
auditors.
Solicit, thank you very much. Words just go
Okay. All right, did 10A landscape. Agenda item 10B, general manager, maintenance and operations. What else do you have for us?
I gave you the road updates,
Yeah.
Budget. Oh, one final thing. We talked about it last month. We are right in the middle of changing processing companies for credit cards for payments that we take here, or residents do online. Many of them have set up for recurring credit card payments. So I counted today, we've had about a third of our residents respond to the emails that we've sent out. Starting later this week, we will start making personal emails to each customer. We're fine, our bill due date, I believe this month is the 23rd. We know who our recurring credit card customers are, so we're fine. But just if you hear something like that, Eyes in the Mud asking for me to resubmit my credit card, it's because of the new processing company we're going to Pace Process.
And we send out MailChimps or emails?
They've
about
already
this?
received 2 emails.
Okay, so they know it's not a phishing scam or anything?
That's right.
That's what I'm
But,
concerned about.
yeah. I wouldn't expect that it went into their junk mail, but we're just gonna make sure. We'll send everybody a personal email, and we'll also reach out by phone.
Okay. And then, remind me, if someone wants to pay by credit card, they've got to pay the fee?
That's right.
Because we're government
The-
agency.
It's still a 5% fee, and that's actually kind of weirdly in water code. That's a 5%
That's in the water
processing
code?
fee. Yeah, I think
Wow.
it's in 54 or 49. Yeah.
I'll expect it for a government. It would-
Some
All
customers
governments
pay
that
the
I
fee.
know of, like, go
Customers pay the
to,
fee. Well, yeah, I know like appraisal district, you know.
that's
probably
right,
pay
you
the
pay,
fee.
you pay
Yeah.
the credit card fee.
Operations, anything special going on you'd like to
The
discuss?
only thing I'll say is it's the word cybersecurity gives me a headache. Along the lines of credit card processing and stuff like that, it just,
True.
it's crazy, but, we're just trying our best to not fall victim to any type of that situation, but, so far so good. We've upgraded our network, we've upgraded everything up to date. Windows 11 should be coming out sometime in the next few months or so. Which means if your machines don't have TPM 1.2, 2.0, or whatever, it's not gonna hang on 11. Doesn't mean we need to, upgrade to 11, within the next 5 years or whatever, but it's just, that technology is just, trying to prevent cybersecurity and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just an ongoing thing, so, definitely a headache, but, that's what we're here for.
Going back to GM, so I know we're taking reservations for the community center.
Getting
There's-
busy down here.
There's no restrictions at all, 100% capacity?
Yes,
Okay.
we've always limited a bit, as far as capacity goes, just fire code, I mean, how many bodies you can really get in.
Sure.
But I could just say most of our renters, they're being very cognizant of it themselves, so yeah.
Okay. Very good. Budget committee, Kevin, or Director Barnes, we have anything else we need to?
I think that we've already pretty much talked about budget. You and I and Janie just need to meet.
Get together offline,
Get together, finalize some things, and
yeah. Okay,
we'll be ready to bring it next month.
very good. Roads committee, anything additional? No? Parks and Recreation Committee, I don't have anything. We heard from Jack, so we've got the arborist is gonna take a look at the trees, and we'll see what damage there is. And Jack said he's not gonna give up on the live oaks just yet, so,
No, and let me expand just a little bit on what Jack, when he was
Please
talking
do.
about memorial trees. We have several trees down at Fernbluff Park, which was our very first park. Was there actually quite a long time before the other ones were being put in. So we have some memorial rocks at the base of the trees. So we have 2 of them. that the trees have died. My thought is where one is located, we should replace that tree, and that's what Jack was talking about. And so we'll replace the tree, put the memorial rock back. The other one is kind of in the middle of a little thicket of trees that, I believe that tree kind of got choked out. Okay, the other ones are doing gorgeous, this one particular tree. My thought is we will just move that memorial over to a different existing tree, rather than planting another one right in the middle that it's just
But
not
they
gonna
choke out
survive.
again, right?
These trees have gotten, huge, much larger than they were when they were first planted. So that's what he was talking about. The third one is at the front of the park that's in, the berms. That's where, a year or 2 years ago, we went in and did a bunch of tree thinning in Fernbluff, because there were too many trees down there. This one tree, I think it should have been removed back then too. We just wanted to kind of keep it, but it's not gonna make it, so we'll just take that one out. But the other two memorial, we tried to be very thoughtful of what we're going to do there. Those, that we had some residents, deaths, lost a child, that's what some of those memorials are down there.
All right, District Community Center Committee, do we have anything? Mr. Operations Person, do we have sound issues still with our sound system, or is it?
Oh, yeah,
Doesn't work out?
We just recently replaced the logic control board or on our sound system, so we have had some systems. I'm going through the gyrations of trying to, come back and forth and trying to make sure that we do get some sound.
Okay.
I'm working through it today. I believe I've had some battery issues that should not have happened, and that's on me. But yeah, hopefully, there's some tweaking to come along, but I think we're getting a little bit better sound in the back. I can kind of hear it, but if I had all my mics working today, then so.
We believe we were hit by lightning, quite honestly, and it just messed all kinds of things up. We have surge
Right.
protectors everywhere, but they only last so long.
It just seems like we're getting an abnormal amount of surges in this community center. We've lost so much equipment, it's not even funny. Surge protectors go
Sure.
out, the batteries in them, we've got backup systems, and we've got, those battery backups actually have, the surge where you're supposed to get some clean power. Even those are getting taken out, so, it's not every day, but it's happening a lot more frequently than I'm used to.
Sure.
Probably because this building sits over here kind of by itself with this metal roof. That's the only thing I can figure out. It's like we've got, no, we don't have a big, dot painted up on the roof or anything. But we do get an awful lot of hits. We'll come in, everything's been reset. I do know Encore's been having some issues. I didn't know that it was in our area, but I don't know.
And one of the strangest things, our metering station, which is kind of our little pride and joy, because we've got some good technology, we've got our SCADA system in there, and we had to replace that board, so now we're looking at grounding issues, because we've protected everything from the top side, electrical, supply or whatever, going to DC converters and just trying to get some clean power, but now the sensors get taken out, which is kind of leading us to believe that we're getting some straight currents coming from the ground, whether it be lightning or whatever. We've got cast iron piping, metal pipe comes through, burns up our pressure sensors, sends that surge up. So, yeah, now we're, instead of just protecting source, we're actually having, protect from the backside coming back into the board, so it's just, it's pretty insane, yeah. But we are taking care of most of that in-house, so that's helped out pretty good. So, I've got spare parts and spare boards and stuff like that, so whenever it does go out, get it back up and running, fairly well,
So it
so.
sounds like it's a fairly high priority for you right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get all these rainstorms and stuff, I mean,
Okay,
you know.
fair enough.
So, but yeah, as far as the sound system, yeah, we have had some issues. We're trying to work through them. Hopefully next month we won't have this issue again. So,
Very good, I appreciate you giving us an update on that. We've already covered deed restriction committee items, security committee. I don't have anything for that. Communications, I don't have anything, and Mark's not here. Attorney report, agenda item 11. We have a legislative update in front of us from items that passed in the last legislative session.
Yes, sir.
I would love it if you could hit some of the highlights that are gonna affect us.
Yes, so I'm not gonna take too much of your time, I'll just touch on ones that might be of interest to the district. And so, y'all have it in front of you, so I'm gonna just start with House Bill 1118, and this is regarding the cybersecurity training, very appropriate. So district elected officials and employees who perform 25% or more of their district business on a computer, they have to complete the cybersecurity training. Suzanne, I'm not sure if I'll check with Suzanne, but if everyone has already completed their cybersecurity
Yeah,
training?
they've already completed
Okay.
everything, so.
We did recently.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. And just know that this also applies to district employees. The next one I'll go over is House Bill 1154, and this is relating to, essentially items that needs to be on your website. And so there are about 15 categories of information that have to be on your website. Janie will coordinate with you to make sure that everything is on there. But essentially, it's just to make you aware that all this has to be on there. The next one I'll touch on really briefly is Senate Bill 3, and this is regarding weather emergencies and power outages. Essentially, you would have to, so when there's a weather emergency, and weather emergency is defined as basically extreme cold, when that happens, you have the let me make sure it's have the option, or you are required to. Yes, so you have to work with your customers during that time period, if they owe something on their bill, to defer the bill, and it has specific requirements in there of like how you would go about doing that. But basically, it's saying in times of emergency or weather emergency, just work with your customers. The next one I'll touch on is in regards to, there were 3 Texas Public Information Act bills that were passed this session. And essentially, what they do is they expand when there is an emergency, it basically relaxes the requirements of the Texas Public Information Act as far as when the district has to reply, et cetera. The time limits are in the district's favor in that they have some time to respond to these requests. House Bill 872, I just wanted to touch on because it talks about your customer information. Essentially, your customer information is confidential information, it's not public, and unless the specific customer opts that their information be made public, then the district has to withhold it whenever they get a public information request. And the form that, we'll have a form prepared, the form that a customer can use to elect to not have their information shared when a public information request is received by the district, that will be on the district's website likely. Or if you want, you can include it on the utility bill. But I will move on to, under section 3, you'll see contracting and procurement, House Bill 1476. It just basically says that if you have a vendor dispute regarding an item that a vendor did, then you have to let them know 21 days after the date that you received the invoice to dispute it, and then you have to basically put it in writing so that they know what exactly is disputed. Senate Bill 19, This essentially requires the district to get a verification form from any vendor that it contracts with for a contract that has a value of $100,000 or more. You have to make sure that they sign a verification that they don't discriminate against folks in the firearms industry. So, there you go. Senate Bill 2116. This is similar to the verification that you have to have them sign, that they don't discriminate against people in the firearms industry. This one doesn't have a contract amount requirement, but basically for anything that deals with your critical infrastructure, you have to ensure that you're not contracting with a company that, with a foreign-owned company in regards to anything that has to deal with your critical infrastructure. So we just need to make sure that's happening because that went into effect immediately. And we will prepare a verification form that y'all can use, that you can provide to folks that you contract with. And other than that, I'm gonna skip over, feel free to review this, and if you have any questions, reach out to myself or Zach, and we'll be happy to answer. The last one I wanna mention is, well, everyone seems interested in it, House Bill 1900, regarding law enforcement funding, that basically penalize cities for defunding law enforcement. There were some concerns about districts choosing to disannex from a city if this passed, and we're not sure that it's gonna actually have any kind of effect because I don't believe that the cities are going to, they don't wanna get defunded, let's just say that. So there might not be much to worry about, but just wanted to make you aware. And that completes my legislative update. If there's any in particular that you want me to go over in detail, I'm happy to do so.
No, that's fine.
I did not know disannex was a word.
I didn't either.
The legislators
I
made it up.
did.
All right.
I read this earlier and I was like, is that really? Disannex.
Ms. Clark, thank you for the update,
Of
appreciate
course,
it.
you're welcome.
Next meeting date, August 10th.
August 10th.
Anyone have an issue with that? Folks that are left? All right, well, let's set the next meeting for August 10th, the regular time. Future agenda items, one thing we're gonna come back to, right, on the auditor, if we can engage the auditor. Budget, I guess we're gonna adopt the budget in August? Will we do it in August, adopt the budget, or wait till September?
You don't have to adopt it
Till the end of September.
until the end of September, but if you're gonna adopt it, I just need to know, cause you'll have to adopt a resolution with that.
That's what we've done in the past, is adopt the budget in August and then approve the
There's
tax
problem
rate in September.
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Okay,
You'll also be calling your tax election in
that's right.
August.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. That's all our business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Director Barnes,
Second?
second by Director Stemko. All in favor? Passes 3-0.